Arsenal are walking into the biggest game of their season with everything on the line, and there's no hiding from it anymore. This is not about form, not about momentum, not even about history. This is about one moment that will define everything they've built. Because the reality is simple: win at the Etihad and the title is almost theirs. Drop points and suddenly the pressure flips, the narrative changes, and doubt creeps back in, and the timing couldn't be more brutal. Bukayo Saka is carrying an Achilles issue that could get worse if rushed. Martin Odegaard is pushing to play, but even his own words, desperate to return, tell you he's not fully comfortable. Declan Rice has already played through illness just to keep the team going, and Martin Zubimendi has been pushed to his limits, starting game after game without real rotation. This isn't a fresh, confident squad walking into a title decider. This is a team that's been stretched, tested, and now has to deliver anyway. But here's what makes this different. This Arsenal team doesn't fear Manchester City anymore. Under Mikel Arteta, they figured something out against Pep Guardiola's system. 5 games unbeaten against City is not luck. It's understanding, it's growth, it's tactical evolution. Arsenal no longer collapse in these moments. They compete, they control, and at times they dominate. So the question isn't belief. The question is execution under the highest possible pressure. And tactically, this game is going to be a chess match decided in very specific areas. The first is build-up. Manchester City will press high, aggressively, and with intention. They will look to trap Arsenal in their own half and force mistakes. This is where Zubimendi becomes a risk, not because he's a bad player, but because his profile doesn't naturally suit high-pressure situations when receiving with his back to goal. That's why Odegaard's potential role becomes so important. If he drops deeper, helps him build up, and becomes that extra outlet, Arsenal suddenly have control. They can break the press, progress the ball, and attack a City team that is momentarily out of shape. If they don't solve that, they spend the game reacting instead of controlling. Then comes the second battle: transitions. City thrive in chaos. They want quick recoveries, fast attacks, and situations where Arsenal are not fully set. Players like Jeremy Doku stretch defences, while others drift into dangerous spaces to overload zones. Arsenal cannot afford to lose structure. The distances between their lines, the discipline in their positioning, and the communication between defenders like William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes will decide whether they survive those moments. But here's the hidden edge. Arsenal don't have to outplay City in every phase. They just have to hurt them in the right moments, and that's where direct play becomes an option. Kai Havertz gives Arsenal a different dimension. If they go long at the right times, they can bypass City's press completely and turn defence into attack instantly. It's not about playing beautiful football for 90 minutes, it's about being smart, efficient, and ruthless when opportunities appear. Now step back from tactics for a second, because this game is bigger than systems or formations. This is about identity. For years, Arsenal have been almost there, close but not quite, good but not champions. And that label doesn't go away until you break it. Inside the squad, the message is clear. Declan Rice has already said it. They are not going to Manchester to defend, to survive, or to hope. They are going to win. That mentality is everything. Because the moment you play for a draw, you invite pressure. The moment you hesitate, City take control. But if Arsenal play with courage, if they trust what they've built and go for it, they can change everything in one night. Still, the risks are everywhere. Fatigue could show in the final 20 minutes. Injuries could force changes. One mistake in build-up, one misplaced pass, one defensive lapse. That's all it takes against a team of this level. And then there's the psychological side. If Arsenal concede first, how do they respond? Do they panic, or do they stay composed? If they take the lead, can they control the game, or do they retreat too early? These are the moments that separate contenders from champions. Because champions don't just play well, they manage the moment. And this is the moment. Win, and Arsenal don't just move closer to the title, they take control of their destiny, silence every doubt, and prove that this team is ready to finish what they started. Lose, and suddenly everything feels fragile again. The pressure increases, the narrative shifts, and the final stretch becomes a fight instead of a statement. That's why this game matters more than any other, not because of the opponent, not because of the venue, but because of what it represents. One performance, one result, one defining moment that decides whether this Arsenal team becomes champions or just another story of what could have been.